Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive structural shift happening literally right now in the AI coding landscape. It's all being sparked by the sudden and definitive retirement of GitHub models. Look, if you're building software, managing an engineering team, or honestly just keeping an eye on the future of development, you absolutely cannot afford to ignore this transition. We're talking about a massive shift from an era of wild, let's just try it experimentation, straight into a rigid era of strict operational control. Let's get into it.
So, here's our agenda for today. We'll start with the exit of GitHub models, look at the structural separation of these tools, dive into this new rise of control and audit, break down the reality of usage-based billing, and finally, wrap up with the immediate actions you need to take.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the exit of GitHub models.
This exit is not just a routine feature update, it's a fundamental repositioning, and the timeline here shows some serious urgency. I mean, on June 16th, new customers were already blocked. But what's really striking are these intentional brownouts. With the first one hitting on July 16th and another right after on the 23rd, GitHub is actively forcing errors. This is a forced migration, plain and simple. By July 30th, the playground, the model catalog, the inference API, it's all completely gone. They're intentionally breaking things early so you don't get caught off guard when they permanently pull the plug.
Moving right along to Section 2, structural separation, not a retreat.
You know, it's super easy to look at a shutdown and think, oh, they're backing away from AI. But actually, GitHub is deliberately pivoting here. They're basically separating the experimental playground from the production factory. GitHub Models was always this rate-limited free space to just kind of test things out. It was never meant to be the backbone of your production apps. Now they're actively urging teams to move their actual product inference over to Azure-ai-foundry. The strategy is clear. They want you paying Azure for your app's AI. Well, Github-copilot becomes your ultimate hyper-focused environment for development AI.
Which brings us to Section 3, the rise of control and audit.
This right here is the absolute crucial takeaway. The future of AI coding is no longer just about which underlying model writes the slickest Python script. As AI agents start taking on these massive, complex tasks, we're talking branching, testing, merging, the priority completely shifts. It becomes 100% about maintaining strict governance over an agent that's basically been left to its own devices.
So how do you actually get that governance? Well, check out the July 2nd announcement. The launch of Copilot agent session streaming is a direct answer to the massive enterprise fear of black box AI. Up until now, enterprise audit logs basically only showed high-level administrative stuff. They didn't show what the AI was actually doing locally on a developer's machine. But this new feature changes the whole game. Instead of just guessing what's going on, organizations can now stream exactly what prompts were used, the precise responses generated, and even the specific tools called by the AI. This data pipes straight into a company's CM system through a REST API that holds a 48-hour window of records. You finally get a full, transparent audit trail of every single move the AI makes.
All right, let's jump into Section 4, usage-based billing and cost control.
Because, let's be real, with great AI power comes a very real compute bill. We are moving completely away from the old days of flat-rate seating. Before, if you use Copilot a ton, it might just quietly fall back to a cheaper, slightly less capable model to save some cash. Yep, that safety net, it's completely gone. We are now living in a rigid token-based economy. It is entirely metered, and trust me, when your budget is depleted, you are hitting a hard stop.
Keep this exact number in your head. 1 cent. It sounds tiny, right? I mean, it's just a penny. But remember, every single input token, every output token, and even cache tokens, they all burn AI credits. And 1 credit equals exactly 1 cent. When you've got autonomous agents running multi-hour coding sessions, ripping through hundreds of files, and running endless continuous loops trying to fix some rogue semicolon, well, those pennies are going to stack up incredibly fast.
To handle this, you've now got a triple-layered billing reality. You've got the organization limit, the shared pool, and the user budget. But here's the vital takeaway you need to understand. If a user hits their specific individual budget cap, their agent stops dead in its tracks. It literally doesn't matter if the company's shared pool still has millions of credits left over. If that user's budget is 0, their workflow freezes.
And as these agents gain the ability to actually browse the web, to fetch docs or test UIs, GitHub is heavily defaulting to control, not freedom. Admins can now enforce strict domain block lists for VS Code browser tools.
They can isolate sensitive tabs and even require manual human approval for certain actions. Even when brand new, highly capable open-weight models get added, like Kimi K2.7 code, they're gated by default. An admin has to explicitly go in and allow them.
All of this comes together in the new Copilot app experience, which is basically acting as a multi-agent control center. And why is that? Because the bottleneck for developers has completely shifted. We're no longer bottlenecked by how fast our fingers can type code. We're bottlenecked by how fast we can track, review, and approve the sessions our agents are constantly running. Features like worktree isolation and agent merge basically mean GitHub is building a full-on operating system for AI agents, letting them work in parallel without constantly tripping over each other.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, immediate actions to take.
Right now, literally today, you need to execute these steps. First up, search your codebases and purge absolutely all traces of the Github-models API before those intentional brownouts kick off on July 16th. Second, you've got to categorize your agents to protect those budgets we just talked about. You should have completely different models and budgets for simple exploration versus heavy modification. And third, flip on and configure your session log retention rules immediately so you don't lose any visibility.
Now, looking a bit further down the road, your actual architecture needs to evolve. You absolutely must separate your product's AI runtime, meaning the AI your end customers actually use, which belongs on Azure-Foundry, from your development AI, which stays in Copilot. You'll also want to start documenting strict internal allow lists for which models can be used for specific tasks. And honestly, most importantly, ensure every single pull request links directly back to the auditable agent session that generated it. That gives you total end-to-end trackability.
I'll leave you with this final thought to evaluate your own infrastructure. Whose approval do your AI agents actually have right now? And exactly how much money are they spending to change your code behind the scenes? If you can't confidently answer that today, well, you've got some work to do. The paradigm has officially shifted from a free-for-all experimentation phase straight into an era of rigorous operational control and auditability. It's time to take control of your AI agents. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.